Welcome back to Beyond the Courts. It's been a while since we've been on your screens, laptops, TV screens, mobile screens, whatever it is. We thought we'd come back and do a NBA Finals edition because, there's just so much happening around the NBA that we thought we'd come back and kind of, talk about the big talking points around the game at the moment. Just in case you guys don't remember my name, you probably don't. I'm Khalid Zankwate. Same thing on, Facebook and Instagram. I go by Childish Galileo on Twitter. I've got my co-pilots, Sukumani Kulube. Suks, do you want to say hi to the people at home?
Yo, what up, peeps? It's been a while. We're still here, back again. Sukumani. You can catch me on Instagram and Facebook, Soul Brother. Yeah, let's get it, man. It's been a while.
What happened to bubble, Sugu? Is it because the bubble's gone? Now you're like, screw that. I'm done with that life.
Yeah, no. No more of that bubble life. Now I'm free.
You can see I've got my whole Derrick Rose, Pit Bear vibe going, trying to represent Chicago. Tula, what's going on, boy? Still clean, still fresh as always. What's happening, homie?
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Tula Kumalo. I like to say that nowadays. It's your boy. It's my new line. I know a lot of people say it, but it's mine now. I'm taking it. It's your boy Tula. It's Tula _ Kumalo on Instagram. It's Tula Kumalo INC on Twitter, and across the board, man, it's Tula Kumalo. Holla at your boy. Musician, fan of the game, huge fan of the game, and creative. Let's do this, man. Let's get it. Let's get it. I'm excited. I haven't spoken about. I haven't had a basketball conversation in a minute.
Right? So I think what I wanted to do today, and I thought could be dope, is we've reached the end of the season, right? Almost the end of the season. We've come to the pinnacle of what every NBA season is about, and that's the NBA Finals, where two teams play off 7 games or 5, whoever gets to 4 first, to become NBA champions. So I thought because we've got the Phoenix Suns from the West and we've got the Milwaukee Bucks from the East, that we basically talk about each series and look at how those two teams got to the finals. And I think maybe because this was probably a bit more unexpected in terms of them actually making it to the NBA Finals, then maybe we should kick off with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, the Phoenix Suns came into the season, no one really knew what to expect of them. And I think the more the season progressed, the more it was like, are they going to be able to keep this up? Are they going to be a problem in the playoffs? And I think the more the team has continued, the more people have believed. I think when we went into the NBA playoffs, they were the 2nd seed. Did you guys see them getting past the Lakers? What were your thoughts, Sugu, when you saw the matchup between the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers?
I think for me, probably the most thing that kind of stood out was fitness levels, right? Like, I guess that's been a theme throughout these playoffs. Yeah. So like on paper, you would think that the Lakers would just kind of find their feeding. Like, that's what we all kind of assumed, is that the Lakers, they'll find a way because they have LeBron, they have AD, they'll find a way. But I think what I've learned, especially with this Phoenix team, is that like these young guys are hungry, bro. So like, even though I saw the Lakers taking it, I think these guys are just hungry for a championship. And I think I think we're almost at a time in the NBA where there's almost like a passing of the guard happening. And I think guys like Devin Booker and them are now starting to step up. But yeah, I think first round I saw the Lakers having it, honestly. But then as things went on, you're like, actually, this Phoenix team's got something to them.
Yeah. What do you think it is about the Phoenix team that pushed them over the edge against the Lakers? Was it injuries or guys being out of rhythm? Guys like Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, basically being a non-show. What do you think helped Phoenix kind of take that series?
I think what these playoffs have shown is the importance of having a good GM. Like, you have to build a team.
All right.
Like, you have to have, like you've got to have the right chemistry. Because like star power is not going to cut it anymore. Because you look at Phoenix, on paper they're not that deep, but then watching these guys play in the playoffs, they're actually quite a deep squad. Like, they have some good role players. They've picked the right people. Yeah, like they just have like a very solid front office that I think put like a good team together. Because I think with the NBA now, there's actually quite a depth of talent. So like once you get to like that second and like third tier star, that's where you like really need to pick the right people. Like you can't just say, cool, I've got Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and then here are the scrubs. Like you have to have like the right people there.
Wait. So are you saying that the Lakers role players, the bench, are you calling those homies scrubs? What are you? And then are you questioning Rob Pelinka's skills as a GM? I mean, he got the chip last year, right?
He did for sure. But I think this year, what it's come down to is it's like you've got players there. Like, I mean, let's be honest, Kuzma's good, but he hasn't progressed at all. Like, they haven't made moves that are actually going to be right for the team and like for that rotation. Because Montrezl Harrell, like, he's cool, but you had Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, and you just let all these guys go. And then you get like one center, and then you've got Marc Gasol, who's obviously getting older. Like, I just feel like the dynamics of that team weren't really thought of properly, like especially going forward. Like you can't lose Rondo and then get Schroeder. Like Schroeder is the better regular season player, but in the playoffs, like you need playoff Rondo. Like they should have made more of an effort for like things like that. So those kind of choices for me, I think they kind of worked against them.
Yeah, and do you think some additions came too late, right? Like, I mean, you mentioned that they had JaVale McGee, they had Dwight Howard. They lost both those guys, and then they only brought them Montrezl Harrell. And then later on in the season, they had Andre Drummond. Do you think the Drummond fit was too much of a late fit? Didn't get into the team culture quite well. Do you think that Andre Drummond is not quite the same player he was before?
I think the thing about Andre Drummond is he's a lane clogger. So when you have Andre Drummond, like LeBron can't kind of cut the way he should cut. I think AD didn't know where to go once Drummond was there, because AD kind of likes to float around, but then with Drummond there, he just dominates the paint too much. So I think it like getting him actually forced them to kind of change their style of play, but the guys were never fit often enough to actually do that. So they couldn't really like figure out their way to play. And in the playoffs, you've got to have your systems. Like you have to know, okay, cool. Like this is plan A, this is plan B. This is how we can course correct. So I think they couldn't course correct because they didn't have a direction to begin with. It felt like, yeah.
Yeah. All right. No, all very good points. All very good points. And I think you're right. I think when you're going into the playoffs, that's when you need to have most things in set. And I think, apart from last year where it seemed like in the bubble, the Lakers team were more solidified than any other team in that situation, apart from the Heat, which is why probably both teams made it to the finals. Is if you look at the Lakers this season, they were so disorientated, disorganized. They didn't feel like they were quite a strong core group like they were the year before. But I mean, I think also, even on that point, right, we also have to give props to the Phoenix Suns, because they came to the party to like the Phoenix Suns, like Suku was saying, guys like Devin Booker, Trae Young, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, those guys are like taking over the league now, and all those guys have stepped up. Luka Doncic. What do you think the Phoenix Suns did from their side to be like, you know what? We know the Lakers are the defending champions, but this series is going to be ours.
I think the Suns had a good veteran in Chris Paul. Somebody who took the time to study the way that the Lakers play and really realized that it's become LeBron or nothing for that team. So when they figured out that the Lakers don't actually have that many rotations outside of playing around LeBron James, it was easy for them to figure this out. And I mean, you could see how vocal Chris Paul was, and I feel like if you look at how the Suns was performing in the bubble last season, you could tell that this team is headed for something. Devin Booker really was performing well, and DeAndre Ayton also started coming into himself and really playing the center role. Probably like, I mean, for me right now, he's like one of the best centers in the game currently. DeAndre Ayton has shown that, and he's a traditional center at that, which is awesome to watch, because he doesn't try to go for the 3-point shot or try to handle the ball. He really knows how to play his role and play it well, you know. But the mind of Chris Paul as a leader and just the coaching of the Suns was the reason why this team was able to perform so well this season. You could tell that even in very tight situations, they were very poised because of the way that Paul was speaking to the team in the little huddles. Like you can see Chris Paul telling Devin Booker to keep shooting, even though he wasn't having a good shooting night at a particular game. Or you could tell he was telling guys like DeAndre Ayton to continue to become to become aggressive. And I mean, I don't think that Cameron Payne was a good player, but like as soon as Chris Paul came to that team, I think Chris Paul sat in his mind and was like, yo, you have something here. You have an X factor here that we need. And they're gonna pay attention to all three of us. They're gonna pay attention to me, they're gonna pay attention to Dev, they're gonna pay attention to DeAndre, but no one's actually gonna give you that scared look, and that needs to be your thing. You need to come into games and just express yourself. Just give yourself a good 5 minutes where we're just giving you touches, and everyone's like, why is this kid getting so many touches? And yeah, man, like I saw the Suns doing something like this because in the regular season, they were being very experimental with their rotations. They were trying a lot of things. They would give Paul the best minutes. I think Chris Paul played the best minutes as a veteran in the NBA. Really, like in the whole of the NBA, if you compare every other superstar in terms of how they were coming in and when they were brought in and what times in the game they were being played in, I think the coaches were able to bring Chris Paul into games at the right time, and they were able to also bring Booker into games at the right time. I mean, Booker was kind of becoming like this, the third quarter secret weapon, and no one was actually paying attention to this. Like I would see it in every game. Like every single game, he'd come in, third quarter would be his time to shine, and then the rest of the game is like we continue playing the way that we do, but third quarter we give Booker the touches he needs to do his thing, you know. But yeah, the Suns really had good coaching, good leadership in Chris Paul, and I mean they already were we could see the talent coming into the season this year, especially at the bubble. But yeah, I could see this coming. I saw this coming.
So then, if you were to put it to one thing that gave the Suns the edge over the Lakers, what would you put that down to?
The Lakers.
Would you say it's the coaching? The role players. What would you put it down to? One thing that
I would say it's the coaching. I mean, from a coaching point of view, they were able to. The Suns were able to make better adjustments in that series, because the first game of that series, the Suns were still mad confused. I think they were blown away by the sheer star power of LeBron, and they were like, they couldn't really, you know, they were still trying to figure out how the hell LeBron was able to do what he can do. And then they realized, okay, yeah, they got that star power and it's interesting and all, but I mean, yes, like the Lakers were injured and everything, but I think when it came down to everything, the way that the Suns were able to make the little in-game adjustments, like that actually helped them dominate the Lakers, because eventually the Lakers had no answer for them, you know, and they started underperforming because there was no motivation on their side, you know, and it's easy to lose your motivation when you come into a team, when you play against a team where you're just not sure how to stop them. You know, you just hope to God that they miss their shots on a certain game, or, you know, Devin Booker doesn't have a good shooting night, or Chris Paul doesn't have a good shooting night. So if that's what you're going to bet on, you're not gonna win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sugu, are you in agreement, or from your perspective, was it something different that won them that series?
Yeah, I think Tools called it out. Like the coaching was quite a big thing because I mean, there's been this debate going about like how good of a coach is Frank Vogel really, right? Like I know some people have like started questioning
Yeah,
because I mean, it's like
Bogo. Damn. Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, like I've seen one or two people kind of bringing up the point because, like, it's because again, I think he doesn't sort of like I'm not sure how well he prepared them for this. Like, I think they're like the Lakers feel like they're almost in a place where because they're expected to win, they think that they can just show up and win. Like it's like, oh well, we've got LeBron, we've got AD, they'll figure it out. Like it feels like there's a lot of that happening. Because if you look, they don't really run many plays in their offense. It's like most of the time, it's like it's LeBron's on the court coaching that kind of gets them through like situations. Like you don't see many set plays really like drawn up for them. So I think that's one of those things where they need to kind of think how can they build around it? Like what does that team look like when he's not on the court, for example? Because I think that's something Tools kind of called out as well, is that they're very star reliant. So the coach has to step up. Because you look at Ty Lue, what he was able to do once Kawhi went down, and they found a way to kind of make it work, but then it just didn't quite help in the end. But for the Lakers, like as soon as AD was out, it was like, well, throw in the towel. That's it.
Ty Lue's a dope coach. His in game and post game, pre game adjustments are just insane.
Mm-hmm.
So just to quickly wrap the series up, so on that final note that you made about Coach Vogel and LeBron, do you not think it then comes down to the fact that I think we all know that LeBron James is a special talent, right? But I think what also makes LeBron such an amazing player is his basketball IQ is probably the best of of anyone on the court right now, except maybe a Draymond Green or like a Chris Paul. But when it comes to seeing the game like no one else does, do you not think then it then comes down to Coach Vogel saying, you know what, sometimes I can step back and let LeBron make run plays? Or do you think as a coach he needs to be strong enough to be like, okay, LeBron, this is not working, so as a coach this is what we need to do?
I think you just got to find like a happy medium, right? Like I think when LeBron's on the coach, I mean, is on the court, you can kind of like just have like a loose structure, at least something that he can then kind of make sure that everyone can like fit into. Because I think if Vogel and LeBron are aligned, then LeBron basically becomes like an extra coach on the court. So then you need that for like when he's on the court. But then when he's off the court, you've got to be able to say, okay, cool, Schroeder, Caruso, guys, this is how you then need to play. Like this is the sets which we should run, especially with playoff basketball, because it's all about half court offenses and like half court sets. So that's when they really need to then just tap into that, because it felt like a lot of the time you can see when LeBron's not on the court, they run that shot clock down to like almost the very end, bro, because they can't get the offense going. So like that's something which they need to just correct and try to get better at. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then last point, so if you were the Lakers, what would you do going into next season? Would you, I don't know, cut Coach Vogel? Would you cut Rob Pelinka because Sugu doesn't think he's a good enough GM?
I didn't say that.
Would you drop Kyle Kuzma? What adjustments would you make going into next season?
Damn. If I was the Lakers, I think this the next season has to be this the one season where they need to start prioritizing on their perimeter shooting. If you look at what was happening on, especially that particular series when LeBron was out of the court, right? You had THT, you had Kyle Kuzma, Dennis Schroeder, or I'd say any other rotational player that was there, maybe Marc Gasol or something, right? So what would happen was that you had maybe a couple of players who would actually maybe give you a good, efficient 3-point shot in a game, but they couldn't play a lot of minutes. Maybe they're too old. In the case of Marc Gasol, where they can't actually play like a full game. You know, you have to actually give them limited minutes. And you have guys like Kyle Kuzma, who I think Kyle Kuzma just needs to really figure his game out. Like he needs to, if he stays with the Lakers, they need to really work on giving him or he needs to give himself a style of play that'll work for him. Does he tighten up on getting to his spots, or does he tighten up on handling the ball better, or does he tighten up on his spot up shooting? Whatever contribution that he can bring into the team at the moment, he needs to really think about that and say, well, look, if I increase my 3-point shooting to 10% and I'm able to shoot at this corner, at that corner, at this spot, and at this spot, and I can get on a screen or run off a screen and grab the ball and shoot it from here, this is how I can help the team. This is how my points will help the team. Because I think what's happening at the moment is that the Lakers aren't, without LeBron and AD on the court, they don't have a good enough lineup, right? And it's one thing to try and get more star power and say, hey, let's try and sign Dame, and because right now that's the conversation that everybody's having in the offseason. Hey, Dame Lillard, let's get Dame in the team. Dame is trying to leave the Blazers. Let's all try to get him in the Lakers. And I think it's cool that they want that. They want somebody who's that good at ball handling, who could be a threat. And I think Dame could be a great addition to the team. But if they want to take more championships, they need to start tightening up on guys like THT. And I'd get rid of Caldwell Pope. I think he's hyped. I think Kuzma is one guy.
I think today, yes, is.
Yeah, for real. I think Kuzma. Is
you guys cold.
I think Kuzma leaving the team could do bad. Is a bad move for his personal career. He stays. He needs to really figure things out. If they give him a chance to stay in the Lakers for another season, it's a do or die season for him. I mean, the one thing that Kuzma has going for himself is that he's not an injury-prone player, and in this league, that is an important thing. You think about what's happened in this postseason with all the injuries that have taken place. If you're a player that's just known for not being injury-prone, you actually have an advantage. And a lot of people say Kuzma has reached his ceiling. I don't think that he's reached his ceiling. I feel like he just needs to have the right shooting coaches around him. I think he needs to work on his footwork, his ball handling. It's not necessarily about his feel of the game. I feel like he has a good feel of the game. He just doesn't know what to do when he gets to certain spots within the court. And the Lakers could choose to invest in that when it comes to Kyle Kuzma and say, hey, look, we're just going to try and make him better, or trade him, not make him our problem. But then, yes, you trade Kuzma, but when you trade Kuzma, you need perimeter shooting. You need guys like Joe Harris, Joe Harris from the Nets, somebody who's just going to grab and shoot. I mean, Bogdan Bogdanovic, guys like that, like who just come in, grab the ball, shoot it. Sometimes can create for themselves, but don't necessarily need to create their own shot. Because right now, the Lakers' problem is that there's a lot of players. They have like 4 or 5 players that need to create their own shots.
Put some respect on Dennis' name, though. Like, Dennis Schroeder was hitting his shots in the playoffs, though.
I mean, but like that's the thing. You don't need everybody to create their shots.
Apart from Brown and AD didn't show up. So apart from the only other player who was giving the Lakers any kind of action was Dennis Schroeder, right? But I get what you're saying. I think it is important to get perimeter players. Like even if they get Dame. Like I think one of the biggest things we've seen with the Nets is James Harden with Kyrie with KD is every time those guys find themselves in a double team or a triple team, they can always shoot a ball to a Jeff Green or a Joe Harris, and those guys
Yeah.
knock down buckets. So it is important to make sure that your team is surrounded by the right people. So I think the other interesting point to make about Kyle Kuzma is if you look at his I want to call it the class that he grew up in, like all those players actually progressed quite well. Maybe that's probably the reason he wasn't traded out of all of them, because
Yeah.
he's always coming into his own at New Orleans. So is Brandon Ingram is was the lead player until Zion, who's obviously gonna probably take over the whole franchise player mentor. Josh Hart is not doing too badly. Like all those guys have actually stepped up and moved up another gear. While Carl, who's I remember at some point there was talk of when AD and LeBron aren't killing it, that he's the guy that's supposed to step up and anything but that. Anyway, on to the next
Before
part.
we go though, I think Kyle Kuzma needs to decide: is he a LA boy or is he a LA Laker? Because I think he's caught up in the city life personally.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
I mean, he's also drank from the Kardashian juice, which is
Yeah.
I mean, Ben
Because I
Simmons
think
did the same thing.
yeah, because like those guys could progress because they were in cities where like, all right, dude, now you got to play basketball. Whereas in LA, I think there's a lot of distractions. And for a person with personality, I think he gets caught up in that a bit. Like apparently he's on the scene quite a bit in LA. So yeah.
He is dating like a socialite, right? So expect that kind of thing to happen quite a bit. Okay, cool. And then for me, what was probably, I know there've been quite a few. I don't know if there've been a lot of shocks, but I think for me this was the biggest shock: the Denver Nuggets versus the Phoenix Suns, right? So like, did you see it going down the way that it did? Did you see the Denver Nuggets? Fine, they don't have Jamal Murray, but you've got the MVP and you've got Michael Porter Jr., you've got Austin Rivers, you've got Will Barton, and they go and lose 4-0 against the Phoenix. Did you see it going down like that?
I'm gonna be honestly, I did not see it going down like this. I think I'm in the same boat with everybody that like a lot of people predicted this game to go as far as a game 7. Everyone kind of saw this one being very tight. And the way that game went on, that series went on, it was just becoming more and more sad. The more Phoenix won, the more Phoenix won the games. I was like, oh my gosh, this is very sad, And what made it such a I guess an easy series for the Suns again. Once again, it is the coaching. They came in and they figured it out.
Coach
they came in and they
shots now. Damn, okay. You guys are straight up.
Guys.
Straight up.
No. Like I think when it comes to how the Suns were able to adjust, instantly figure out the Nuggets was a beautiful thing to watch, because the Nuggets had a style of play and a structure that was not fast paced. The way that they were able to win games in the regular seasons was that they were basically always in control of the rhythm of each game they were playing. So they would get Jokic on the ball, and Jokic would literally, like, he would literally post up and stop the game for like a good 5 seconds. Like everything starts to slow pace, players move around, and the Suns did not allow Jokic to do that. And that was the first thing. That was the first thing I noticed, and I was like, yeah, the Suns they're not giving them a chance. And the Suns kept making their fast breaking was crazy. I mean, they were so good at grabbing the rebound and coming back with like an insane fast break that the Nuggets were not ready for that. I mean, they were almost their fast break speeds at that game were almost similar to that of the Bucks. And I mean, we know that the Bucks is a really good team when it comes to like their fast break runs, but like the Suns gave them a run for their money for that. And that was the one thing that I saw, and I was like, yo, like that was the biggest X factor of that entire series, was them not giving the Nuggets their own rhythm. And then them and the Suns basically saying, we're gonna play a really fast game over you. We're gonna get on the fast breaks. When it's our turn to attack, we're not going to run the clock. We're actually going to get our shot when there's still about 10 seconds left in the shot clock. And we have a good rebounder in DeAndre Ayton, and he really, really came onto his own, and he really gave Jokic a hard time. I mean, Jokic is obviously going to get his point and stuff, but he's not a defensive player. And you can either choose to keep him on the court so that he scores, but he becomes a defensive liability, or you limit his minutes so that you can get somebody who's stronger defensively, but then won't necessarily offer you that scoring option. So they realized that. And then I think that the fact that Jamal Murray wasn't in that team was also played a huge advantage for them, because if he was there, then they would have had another person, another offensive problem to sort out. But because Murray wasn't there, they knew that, yes, all the other players are talented and they have to obviously play hard and defend hard against everyone else. But the biggest factor here, the person who runs the rhythm of this team, who runs the plays all the time, the person who brings the ball down the court, is Jokic. So if you have him locked up and you have him figured out, you have the whole series figured out. Because that's all they did. They figured Jokic out, and that's essentially what made them win as well as they did. Okay. Yeah.
Sugumani, what do you think? Are you in agreement, or are you like, nah, to fucking trash? Or you're also gonna hate on Coach Malone?
No, I think Tools made some valid points, man. Like, I think the other thing was that the Suns played to their strengths. Like, they're a guard dominant team, and that allows them to break, because the Denver Nuggets are quite a sluggish team, especially when Murray's not there. So like, you know what, we've got the guards, we're just gonna make these guys run. And then by doing that, you can tire out the likes of Jokic and them, because that's different kind of conditioning. But I mean, having said that, Denver does play in like Mile High City, so they should be cool with that. But I think just from like a gameplay perspective, it's like they just couldn't cope with like how quick the Suns were going at them. Like for a while, it almost felt like the Mike D'Antoni Suns, the way they were playing that 7 seconds or less ball. Like they were just always just at them quick. So I think the coach just couldn't find a way around that, and I think, again, it goes back to personnel. Like you got to have the personnel to be agile, especially once it comes to playoff time, because you're facing so many different looks, and like you've got to just be able to like kind of grind it out. And I think the Suns have just mastered that with their coach, with the personnel they have, and obviously having Chris Paul, because I think he makes a big difference for that team, because I think he gives the guys around him confidence. So I think, and off the back of like having knocked out the Lakers, I mean, if you knock out the Lakers, you're feeling like, dude, we can do anything now. Yeah. Whereas I think for the Nuggets, they had a hard series against the Blazers, and we all know that the Blazers have no defense, but they still had to kind of like drag it through. Whereas I think for the Suns, the test which they had against the Lakers, that kind of made them better ready for the Nuggets. And I think the Nuggets just didn't do their homework properly.
All right. So on that note, so when we spoke about, personnel, right, which is quite a key thing. And when you spoke about the Lakers, you threw shade at Rob Pelinka. Do you think with the Denver Nuggets as well? I mean, there's a trade that they made, a few months ago, I think it was, where they got Aaron Gordon from Orlando, and then they sent Gary Harris the other way. Do you think that was a trade that worked out for them in the end? Because if you think about it, even with the Bucks getting PJ Tucker to come bring in that steeliness and that, that rugged edge. I don't think Aaron Gordon quite has it, but Gary Harris does, and that's the kind of player that you need in the playoffs, right? Do you think that's part of the thing that you were talking about with the personnel, or do you think that was a good trade?
I think the Nuggets are still finding their personality as a team. Like I think they've got Jokic, they've got Murray, but I think they're still looking for their identity. So I think losing Harris did affect it, but I think their greater struggle will be finding what their sort of like what's their MO. Because I think right now they've got two great players, but then what's your style of basketball? How do you guys actually if Jokic is struggling, what's your plan B? How do you adapt? How do you just kind of handle whatever's thrown at you? Because I think right now they've got one way of playing, but they need to just find like actually what's our style that's going to get the best out of everyone. Like I think that's what they're doing. Because I think Nuggets, give them like 2 or 3 seasons, I think they'll definitely be there. Because I think with Phoenix, they were like everyone was talking about Philly's process, but it was actually Phoenix that were actually doing the process. Like they're the ones that actually got right. Yeah, because like Philly were just like, yeah, we're just gonna tank and then like get draft picks. Whereas Phoenix were like, no, cool. Like things aren't going well, but we've got Booker, we've got Ayton, we've got this and that. Because they could have gotten Luka, they could have gotten Trey, but they knew what they were building when they were making all those draft picks. So I think things like that, where they had their vision, that's now starting to give them the success with which they have now. And I think Denver's probably going to just need to start doing some of that as well on their side, just to see, okay, cool, actually, what do we have based on this style of play, based on the players, what's our best kind of way forward? And you might find that you might need a different coach based on the personnel you have. Like that could be something for them to also look into, yeah. Like, but that just depends on what the team's ambitions are.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah, and then on the point of young players, so you just mentioned Trae Young, you just mentioned Luka. I think going into the series against the against the Phoenix Suns, right? Going into the series, MPJ was their second best player, or supposed to be their second best player. If you look at all the other young, they stepped up, right? Going into the. Do you think there was too much pressure on MPJ? Do you think he didn't have the right support and coaching? Why do you think he didn't flourish? Because he was amazing in the regular season, and then now when there was no Jamal Murray, because even towards the end, even without Murray in the team, he was still helping the team. He was still scoring his, averaging 20 points a game, getting rebounds, averaging 50% on 3-pointers, which is insane. Do you think that, once he got to the playoffs, it was too much pressure, and there wasn't, for instance, a Chris Paul or like a Kemba Walker to kind of help talk him through, making the progression in playoff basketball?
Like I think that's probably something that they would need to look at, is that they need almost like an old head there just to kind of calm it down. Because I think also the other thing is, I think Porter Jr., he's a good third option, but not the best second option to have. Like when you've got Jamal, Jokic, and him, then like that works. But I think saying, okay, cool, now this is our number 2 option, it's like, I don't know about that. Because Jokic is like such a star that Porter Jr. is like not quite like the number 2 to that. He's probably like the 3rd tier of that. So you would need someone to kind of just step into that. So I think for Denver, they probably need like 1 or 2 old heads just to calm the guys down. And then once Jamal Murray's back, see how they do.
Yeah.
You guys are pissed off. So do you think Michael Porter Jr. has the potential to become, like Suku was saying, it doesn't seem like he has it at the moment. It doesn't kind of seem like he can step into that second or first, superstar position. Do you think he has the potential, or do you think he's also kind of almost hit his ceiling with, where he is now?
I think he has a very high ceiling. I think he hasn't reached his full potential as yet. One of my projections of Michael Porter Jr. when I used to watch his college games is that, like, I actually watched him and I was like, yo, he's got a Kevin Durant style of play, and he's very lengthy, and he's got a good shot. and he can shoot over so many people. Like he's one of those players that's very hard to guard, right? And I think in this last series that they had, like Sugu said, I don't think he worked as a good enough second option because I think it's simply because Jamal Murray plays off of Jokic so well, right?
Human game.
They complement each other very well. Because Jokic can slow the game down and Jamal Murray can like literally just like increase the rhythm so fast, so much, right? And that was the one missing thing was that one player who would change the rhythm of the game. And I think Michael Porter Jr. wasn't that player for the team. He's not as agile, he's not as fast, he's not fast enough for him to really affect the rhythm of the game that much, you know. So yes, he could still get his shots and he could still do his thing, but because he couldn't affect the rhythm of the game as much, it was easy for the Suns to also defend around him as well. And I think that I think what can happen going forward is if the Nuggets get a good enough backup point guard that can play well next to him, he might be a really good secret weapon for the Nuggets. Like he could literally be one of those could be like could be like a Chris Middleton right now. You know what I mean? If you look at Middleton right now with Holiday,
Yeah.
secret weapon. Crazy how like everyone was doubting Middleton, but like Middleton just needed somebody who would like give him, like allow him to get to his spots easier instead of him trying to, you know, dribble the ball to his spots. He can just really sit there and you know, give his back to a certain defender and just grab the ball, turn around and shoot. And I think Michael Porter Jr. needs somebody who's going to complement his style of play like that. Or if he really wants to, he could try and figure out a way to play with Jokic in the pace that they are playing. And you could see that they were trying to do that in the playoffs, but it was the playoffs. It was a high stakes. Yeah, it's too late then, you know. I mean, those are things that you try and figure out in the regular season with the smaller games. Once you get into the playoffs and you have to try and figure those things out, it's too late.
Well, I'm guessing also you're not planning for Jamal Murray to be injured, right? So it's also probably understandable why that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just to be clear,
Also,
you're not saying MPJ is not a great player. You're just saying that in this series, like he just didn't have what it takes to be the second option.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you about to say?
I was gonna say like two less points. I think like you can imagine someone like a Dennis Schroeder as the backup option in Denver. That could be like that's actually probably like a better fit for him than LA. Because then you could have Schroeder with MPJ and then with Jokic, for example, like because then that like opens up your rotation a bit once you've got that kind of a player. So it's like things like that.
Yeah.